Hello there. If you can tell by my voice, I am feeling horrible right now. I have come down with some sort of horrible cold, so I do apologise. But it's also the reason I've got a bit of time to do a couple of deck profiles today, because I weren't able to come into work like this. So, what we have is, for this one, we have the Counting to 7 deck, as it's called, which is obviously, if you can tell by the name of the video, etali, primal, conqueror. Very good card. Basically 7 mana, 7/7. That says if it ever enters the battlefield, every player, including you, exiles the top cards of their deck until they hit a non-land. I get to cast those non-lands for free in that moment. Every land that was exiled this way stays exiled, essentially. So it's very much a deck about bringing this guy out as quick as possible. Now, if you know your Magic, which if you're watching a deck profile, I assume you do, we have we have the problem of this deck can technically class as EDH. However, the way I have personally built it is I've made sure it was not CEDH. It is still strong, don't get me wrong, but that's just how etali is in general. So we're going to start with the mana dorks, aka basically how you're going to ramp into 7 mana as quick as you can. So I'll be honest with you, this entire chunk here is all mana ramp, so it can be quite quick. I've had etali out turn like 2. I've actually had a game where I had him out turn 1, which was insane. So we're going to go through the mana dorks, as they're called, aka the creatures that tap for mana. We have Paradise Chocobo, which is a Birds of Paradise, taps for any colour. A Delighted Halfling that taps for any colour and then also makes a legendary uncounterable. We have Llanowar Elves, Elvish Mystic and Thinhorn Elves that all tap for green. We have an Orcish Lumberjack that will tap to sacrifice a forest to make either 3 green or 3 red. We have a Timberwall that will sacrifice itself to create 2 red. And we have a Wild Cantor that will sacrifice itself for any mana colour. Those are the 1 mana dorks. We then have the 2 mana ones, which is Ruby, Daring Tracker, which is 1 with haste that taps for either colour. We then have Spider Manifestation, almost said manipulation. Spider Manifestation, it's a reach one that allows you to tap for either of the colours, but also if you cast etali specifically, or something else that's got more than 4 power, he'll just go, oh, I'm going to untap again, giving you extra mana that turn if you want to cast something else. We then have Devoted Druid. We are not running the Infinite with this, we are just running it for the green mana, potentially 2 green mana in the same turn if need be. Burning Tree Emissary is a filter. Basically, if I have 2 red but I need a green, I can use Burning Tree. If I have 2 green but I need a red, Burning Tree. If I get off the top of my library, 2 free mana. We then have Burgi, which will give me red mana for every card I cast. Yes, that includes the ones that we get for free off etali, so if you're on a pod of 4, you're always guaranteed 4 mana essentially off of the etali trigger. We have Zavala, which will draw you cards every time etali comes in, and will tap to give you mana equal to its power. Grinning Ignis, you can pay a red mana to add it back to your hand. By the way, we've hit the 3 mana, so this was the end of the 2 manas. And then the 3 mana was Burgi, Zavala, and Grinning Ignis. We then have Treasonous Ogre at 4 mana. So Treasonous Ogre has the ability of you pay 3 life to add 1 red. Very good card. You pay 21 life, Commander. Seems like a lot, but genuinely with how quick this deck can run, like 21 life isn't the worst problem. Neheb, specifically, I forget which one this is, specifically Dread Horde Champion. So when you attack, you discard as many cards as you want, you make that much red mana and draw that many cards. Next we're going to go into the 2 creatures that just exile from their hand to give you mana, which is obviously Simian Spirit Guide and Elvish Spirit Guide. Just gives you a green and a red mana just by exiling it. Can't go wrong. Next we have these instants and sorceries that give you mana. Best one obviously being Jeska's Will, because if you can get to 3 mana on turn 1, this is a turn 1 etali. If you can get to 3 mana on turn 2, depending on what your opponents did, this is a turn 2 etali. Then we have Seething Song, which increases your mana by 2 as long as you have 1 mana, 3 mana. You have Infernal Plunge, which as long as you've got a creature to sack will increase your mana by 2. You have Mana Geyser, that will increase your mana potentially up to like infinite, technically, depending on what decks you're playing against and how much land they have tapped. We then have Desperate Ritual, which ups your mana by 1, and Pyretic Ritual, which also ups your mana by 1 for the same mana cost. Then we have a Rite of Flame that once again just ups your mana by 1. We then have a Metamorphosis, which is a way to sacrifice etali to recast it, and gives you its mana cost plus 1. So it's actually not bad for like mana ramping as well. Ooh, is that like dirt on it? Ugh. I'm usually quite good with these, but sometimes the tiniest bit gets on them. Ugh. Anyway, Eldrazi Confluence. God, this head cold is killing me. So this is a way to flicker etali or to create more like free colorless creatures that will sacrifice for mana. We have a Crop Rotation that will increase our mana by, let's be honest, you could sack a land that gives you 1 mana to a land that gives you 2 mana. You'll see what I mean later. Next we have the enchantments that up your mana. We have a Carpet of Flowers. If your opponent's playing Island, you now have extra mana. Growing Rites of Itlamok turns into a Gaia's Cradle and lets you look for creatures from top of your library. Gaia's Touch is more like a bank, so you put 2 green into it, and then on a later turn you get 2 green out of it. We then have Mana Flare, which will double all lands tapping mana. Also helps your opponents, but honestly, again, you're trying to get your etali out, so you don't care that much. You have Utopia Sprawl and Wild Growth, both equipped to lands, so make them tap for an additional mana. Then we have the usual Mana Rock artifacts. We have Soul Ring, Arcane Signet, Felwar Stone. Sorry, the glare isn't great, but there you go. We have Gruul Signet. We have Talisman of Impulse. We have a Ruby Medallion. So that's all of the generic, like, here's your usual artifacts mana ramp. Then we go into the more good for this deck specific ones, like Lotus Petal. Yes, that's good and all, but like the price of it, like I could see people not wanting to invest in it, but in this deck it's kind of mandatory. You're trying to get to 7 mana, and the Springleaf Drum. So, and then we're going to go into the last 3 cards of what I call the mana section, which is a Food Chain, a Squeedium, Immortal, and a Eternal Scourge. The reason these 3 are here is because they are the infinite. So obviously if you have Food Chain and either Squee or Eternal Scourge, you have infinite mana, because you exile Squee for 4 mana, you use 3 of that mana to cast it back from exile, because you can cast it from exile, and then you exile it for 4 again, netting a mana every time you do this. Same with Eternal Scourge. So all 3 of these cards equal an infinite. Obviously there's 2 parts of one side and only 1 part on the other side, because they will never print another card like Food Chain, let's be fair. It's bad enough they printed it once. Next we're going to go into the copy section. So this is the cards that will copy etali or basically give him additional triggers. So 1 etali is great, 2 etalis is better. So we have a Cursed Mirror. The reason I went with this one first is because it's also mana ramp, but it basically turns into an etali as it enters if you control an etali. We then have Helm of the Host and Splinter Twin. Don't think I need to explain why these are good. We then have a Roaming Throne, Declared Dinosaur. You now have multiple etali triggers. And then we also have a Conjurer's Closet to flicker the etali if we're not legend ruling him out. which again, multiple triggers. We then have a Bramble Sovereign. If you could pay 2 mana, you get a token copy every time he enters. We then have the sorceries and instants that are duplications. So we have, let me put these back here. We have Electro Duplicate. We have, which has flashback, so probably one of the better ones. We then have Devastating Onslaught. We then have Multi-Duplication. We have Twin Flame, Heat, Shimmer. So these are the 5 sorceries and instants that do it. And then, because we have sorceries and instants that copy creatures, obviously we're going to run, oh sorry, Glare. We're going to run the Dualcaster Mage. Because why not go for an infinite kill as well? So, yeah. There's 2 infinites in this deck. Next, because we are running a couple of infinites, we do have some tutors. We're running Sylvan Tutor, we're running Worldly Tutor, so both of these will put to the top of your library any creature. Sylvan Tutor is slightly worse than Worldly Tutor because Sylvan Tutor is a sorcery while Worldly Tutor is an instant. Gamble, which is our way of getting food chain. Hopefully you don't discard it. And a Inspire... Sorry, let's try that again. An Imperial Recruiter. So you're able to get any creature of power 2 or less, which is, I think, both parts of the infinite for food chain. It definitely gets you the Dualcaster, and it can get you Treasonous Ogre, so it's pretty much always good to have. Next, we're going to go into 2 cards that do the same ability, which is Underworld Breach and Pass in Flame. For the turn, everything in your graveyard has flashback. Underworld Breach will specify that you have to exile 3 cards as well as attempt to cast it. Meanwhile, Pass in Flames just goes, as long as you're trying to cast it, you could just exile it. So this exiles the spell on cast. This one exiles 3 spells in graveyard already, but the one that you resolve will not exile. So they both have different uses for that reason. Next we have Eternal Witness to bring back from graveyard. So essentially the same thing, but like this can work on permanents as well as instants and sorceries. Talking of permanents, we've got 6. Discard a land, cast a card from your graveyard. Permanent specifically. Next we have a Glimpse the Impossible, potentially ramp, potentially just see top 3 cards, see if you get something that you need. Stormkiln Artist, once again just... every time you cast and copy a spell, you make a treasure, so it's just ramp. And Life's Legacy is our last non-land, which will sacrifice etali and make us draw that many cards. Now we're going to go into the lands. So we're going to go into the generics first. We're going to get a Command Tower and Exotic Orchard. Very basic. We're then going to go into the MDFCs, which there's only 2, which is a Bridgeworks Battle, which lets etali fight a creature or comes in as a land, and Disciple of Freyalise, which sacrifices etali, draws us 7 cards and gains us 7 life, or comes in as a land. We then have the what I like to call the burn lands. So we have City of Brass, Tarnished Citadel, and Stomping Ground. So City of Brass, pay life every time it gets tapped. Tarnished Citadel, pay 3 life every time you want to make a coloured mana with it. And Stomping Ground, pay 2 life to have it enter untapped. Next we have the generics that kind of help the deck. So like Yavimaya, turning everything into a forest. So spoiler alert, we're running a lot more red mana generators because obviously etali and a lot of our mana increases are red. But this allows us to have the sort of, oh, do we actually need a bit of green here? Thailand Gates of Muldara, we're allowed to, basically we phase out a creature that's a pain in our butt, and then we also get to make mana. We will then go for a Crystal Vein. Taps for 1 colourless, however if you sacrifice it you create 2 colourless. This is why Crop Rotation is a mana increaser, because you sacrifice, say, a forest, you get this guy. Sure, you're losing access to green, but you now have access to 2 mana instead of 1. Command Beacon is the last non-basic. Command Beacon obviously allowing us to put etali back to hand and recasting him for cheaper. Then we go into the basics. We're running 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 mountains. Because again, we want a lot more red, and we do want basics in case someone tries to blood moon us. So the other lands are great, but we do need basics. Also, if someone plays something like a Collective Voyage, just ramping off of that is obviously always good. So you want to have options. And then for forests, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. So not like half, but close to half the amount of mountains. Just because, again, you want more mountain than forest, but you do want forest. So you are still likely to draw a forest or something that creates green. You just, you're more likely to get red, which, let's be fair, when it comes to the spells that you're casting, you're more likely going to need red anyway. So that's etali. It's very strong. You might have to aggressively mulligan, depending on how bad your luck is, but I found the most I've ever mulliganed with this deck is like maybe twice, because normally I get into enough ramp that I can get etali out like turn 3, which, because this is bracket 4, not CEDH, I think turn 3 etali is fine, Like, if you're going to turn this into CEDH, then yeah, you're going to mulligan way more aggressively because you're going to want to get to turn 1 etali. But turn 3, absolutely fine in not casual tables, but like not outright competitive tables. It works quite nicely, actually. So, yeah. I will put, as usual, the link in the description to the Mox field. So if I ever make a change to it, you get to see that change immediately. And also, so if you want to see any of my other decks, I will be uploading another profile because, as I said, I'm not feeling great, and this is giving me entertainment for the day. Oh, so yeah, I will. Oh, and shout out to the person who helped me with this. I can't say their name because obviously I'm not gonna dox some guy, but thanks to the guy at my locals who basically gave me the backbone of this deck. He basically gave me a list of the best ramp and the best like copies, and then obviously I worked out the rest from there. Like Conjurers was my own adding. Like I'm pretty sure I added a few of those lands myself. I added like I think Scapeshift was also one of my ones. Like there was a bunch. I'm not even running Scapeshift. No, I'm thinking of the other deck. See, I told you my head cold, man. But yeah, he gave me a good backbone to work off of. So huge big ups to him, or whatever the fuck he wants me to say as the way of saying thank you very much, Lee. And yeah, other than that, I will see y'all in the next video, which will probably be uploaded today as well. Have a good one.